Are you guys wondering how you know whether or not the person you're joining their syndication, do you wonder whether or not they are good at operating the property? Should you be asking that question? Absolutely, you should, because that is what affects your returns. And on today's show, we're going to be telling you 3 questions that you can ask about operations to let you know whether or not it is a good syndication, good place to park your money.
Hey, accredited investor, I'm so pumped to tell you about this brick, beautiful property that we just got. It's 166 units, solid brick building, almost 100% occupied. There's 2 vacancies right now out of 166 units. The only reason we got this is because the sellers took out one of those crazy loans 2 years ago and their loan is expiring. Otherwise, they would have been able to keep this building for the long haul, but we're stepping in at the perfect time to swoop up and grab this building. It's presently rented 15% below market rate rents. I have the comps inside the actual property to prove that too. All you have to do to learn more is go to homeinvest.com and click on one of the invest buttons, or you can look down in the description of this podcast wherever you're seeing it, and you can see the link in the podcast description. Now, always consult with a tax advisor, a financial planner, or an attorney before making investment decisions. Having said all that, all you have to do to learn more is go to homeinvest.com or click on the link down in the description below. Thanks, and looking forward to partnering with you.
If you're new to the show, his name is Nate Armstrong, the guy sitting across from me. He's the founder and CEO of Home Invest, an Inc. 500 real estate investment company. My name's Steve Warner. I am your chief investment officer, and we are here to help you be great stewards of your money. All right, Nate. So let's jump into it. Operationally, like a lot of people, like they look at the numbers on the return, right? It's a 17% or a 20% or a 25% IRR, and it's got a 1.8 or a 2.0 multiple. But that just tells us the numbers from a distance. How do we make sure that an investment is being operated well? What are some questions that we should be asking operators, and what does it actually look like? I mean, we operate a lot of properties,
So before we took stuff in-house, we manage our own assets in-house now. But before we did that, by the way, Steve, this is something that like no operators are going to openly advertise this stuff, because this is kind of the secret sauce of what, if they're doing it right, it's what's causing you to have a really, really good return. If they're doing this wrong, then makes every bit of difference. In an environment right now, like we're in, with rising costs, with insurance through the roof, with taxes going up, operators need to be really, really good. So we're going to give away the secret sauce of the management world. In the management side, although it doesn't seem all that sexy, it is the most important part when you buy these properties. So before we took stuff in-house, we had this external property manager that they were letting stuff go vacant for sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes a full month. And I remember getting on the phone with him, is a really nice guy named Jim. And I said, "Hey, Jim, help me understand this. Why do I continuously see that when a unit comes vacant, that usually we've got like a month of downtime? Well, what's going on?" And he said, "Well, Nate, ever since, such and such time frame, we changed our policies, and we just decided that it's better to let the current tenant pack up and move out before we start showing the unit to a new tenant. That way we can get a new tenant with a new experience, and they don't get any of like the negativity from an old tenant that was moving out." And I said, "Well, Jim, I kind of understand the logic, but do you understand financially what that does to us as owners?" He said, "Well, no, it's going to be better in the end. Like I just know it'll be better in the end for you guys, because you'll get better tenants and it'll just be better." And I said, "Well, do you have any data to back that up? Like, are you getting higher rents because of this?" He's like, "Well, no, we don't." And I said, "Jim, we can't go this way, man. You're effectively telling me that we're going to lose 1 month out of the year every single month when you have a turnover. Like that's just not possible." Well, needless to say, we ended up not going forward in doing any more business with Jim. We took our units back, and we're not nothing against Jim other than the operational inefficiency. You as a landlord cannot afford to have 1/12 of your income wiped out because the property manager is too lazy to show the unit while there's a tenant living in the property. Instead, you need to follow the tips that Steve and I are about to give you. Steve, are you cool if we break this one down?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nate is 100% right. when it comes to getting new tenants in, you should never have that long of a turn. So Nate, what are some of the questions that we ask operators?
Yeah. So how long is your average downtime? When you got a unit that's coming vacant, how long is your average downtime?
What's acceptable there?
Yeah. So if we're talking about a major renovation, that might need a couple of weeks inside of an apartment building. If we're talking about just a churn, which is shampoo the carpets, touch up paints in and out, that's a 24 business hour thing. So they should have a good handle on that. You should be able to tell by reading their vacancy report. Every property management company, if they're using a reputable software, you can run a vacancy report and you can see, or they might call it the opposite. They might call it the occupancy report, but you'll be able to run that and check for the last 12 months, what's their average vacancy. So you can tell that number really fast. How much time are they being inefficient and down on the property?
Would you see this on the rent rolls?
You could probably identify it in the rent rolls. You could probably see it by just looking at like cash collected versus not cash collected if they're doing their accounting right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's where you want to look. And sometimes you might ask a syndicator and they might say, I don't know the answer to that. They can dig around. They can get the numbers for you. And you might have to do some digging. But here's the thing. You're going to hand over $100,000 of your hard-earned money expecting a good return. So it is worth doing a little bit of digging and making sure that they know how to turn over a unit. So the second thing, this is something that I think really smart operators are doing. And it's leading to a couple, I would say like probably an extra 25, 30 grand total in collections. Nate, do you want to jump into the second piece around move outs?
Yeah. So everybody and their brother, they sign a lease when? The first of the month. And when does it end? The 30th or the 31st, the last day of the month. That's typically how the operating procedure goes for 95% of property managers and landlords in America. The problem with that is that the 30th or the 31st of the month, that might be on a Thursday. It might be on a Friday. And what happens is that tenants, they don't plan that far in advance when they're moving out. Usually what they're going to do is they're going to try not to have to pay double rent. They're going to try to line up wherever they're moving to, their next place, moving out of your unit, wherever they're moving to, they're going to try to line it up so that there's no duplication of rent payment, meaning they're paying you and they're paying the future landlord. So what happens if their lease ends on a Thursday or a Friday, inevitably their actual moving date, and let's see if people can guess this. Just think out loud to yourself. When do you think most tenants pack up their physical stuff and move out of a property? A certain day of the week. Most tenants work Monday through Friday, and they might have Saturday off. Well, most tenants end up moving over the weekend. If it's not just them, sometimes it's Uncle Ned who has the truck that's helping them pack up and move. So they move on a Saturday or Sunday. So the problem with a lease that expires or ends on a Thursday or a Friday is that they're going to call you Thursday or Friday and they're going to say, hey, I need a few more days. Can you let me stay a few more days to pack up and move? Whereas, let's go with the opposite. Instead of ending the lease on a Thursday or Friday to try and coincide with a full month, let's just prorate it a few extra days. Let's have the lease end on a Tuesday. Why? Why on a Tuesday, Nate? Well, here's why. And better yet, even on a Monday, okay? Here's why. If it ends on a Monday, they will plan ahead and they'll say to themselves, I'm going to pack up and be out this Saturday. And then they'll hand the property back to you before their lease expires by one day. They'll call and they'll say, hey, I'd like to get my deposit back. Can someone come do a move out inspection? That is a good thing for you because what you can do is you can use that one day extra that they gave you to have maintenance come in and shampoo the carpets, do the painting touch-ups, and put that unit back in service on the very first day of the month that you legally have possession of it again. So that's an operational hack right there that will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars on your properties. It'll put more money in your pocket in the end.
This is how a good operator operates. And if you're talking to the syndicator and they don't have any idea about this, you want to make sure that they know what they're doing when they're operating. If they have no clue, or if they say, yeah, that sounds good, but we probably won't do that, you might want to look for something else because they're not getting 100% efficiency out of their whoever they're hiring, their staff, whether it's them or somebody else. And those little things, just like that, like you might say, well, that how big of a difference does that really make? Well, if that gains you, let's say 2 extra days of paid rent per month per unit. If we're at $35 a day, that's $70 per unit. If you're looking at 100-unit building, that is 100 times 100, right? Or $70 times 100 units in a year. If you're turning them all over in a year, what's the math on that, Nate? I got to do math in my head. I got a calculator. So 70 times 100, $7,000 just in 1 year. It's free money that's just sitting there. Another one that I like to ask a lot of apartment buildings have started moving towards is paid rental, paid parking spaces. I know, Nate, we did this in one of our buildings. It's just free money laying around. There are tenants out there that are willing to pay for a parking space so that they have an assigned space that is maybe covered or in a garage. They would really like it.
So check this out, Steve. Is it cool if we break down how we added an extra $500,000, $500,000 in value to this property?
Sure.
So it works like this. We bought this property and they had parking. They had a parking lot, part of it was a covered garage too, but they had never leased out the spaces. We went in, as soon as we took over the building, we went in and we had everybody move their cars out for a day of cleaning in the garage and the parking area. And we cleaned it all really good. We had the lines repainted and numbered. And then we told all the tenants going forward, you can park in there, but it's $50 per month. Well, we ended up renting out all the spots. They went within the first 2 months of us renting them out for $50 each. Tenants loved it. I was a little bit nervous before we did this move, but because I was worried, like, oh my goodness, tenants are going to complain. They actually loved it because in the past they said that it was a free-for-all. And they didn't there was no guarantee that they would have a spot when they came home late at night. Now they have a guaranteed dedicated spot as long as they pay for it. In addition, what happened when you charge $50 per month and you sell all the spots in your building, or rent them out rather, what happens is that income adds up. That income is now almost $10,000 per month in rental income. If you divide that by the cap rate of the building on what stuff sells around there, you actually increase the value of your property by that much money. If we went and sold that same property today and only did that one improvement, rented out the parking spaces, we added over $400,000, probably closer to $500,000 in value to that property.
Pretty sweet. And that's just from one little operational hack. So you want to make sure to ask about these things. The better you are at asking questions going into a syndication, the more comfortable you're going to feel and the better returns you are going to get. If you're looking to put $100,000 in, you want to make sure that the place is going to be run well. If you'd like to hear about our current offerings, you can go to homeinvest.com. Right now, we have a 166-unit building in Lexington that is 95% occupied. It's a great value add property that's going to cash flow very strongly from day one, has a unique tax benefit to it. We are actually doing a return of capital instead of paying dividends. Just changes the coding on our end. But what this does for you is it means that as an investor, you don't pay taxes on the 3 to 5 years that leads up to the sale. Instead, you're getting a return of capital. So every year you just get some of your money back and you don't have to pay taxes on it. Huge tax benefit to you. You can go to homeinvest.com to learn more, book a call with me or our lead advisor, Sue. Nate, before we jump off of here, are there any other hacks that people need to know about? Any other questions they should be asking when it comes to operations of their property?
Last hack that I'll give for now, because it's right around the corner, is tax time. And there's a conversation you could be having with your CPA that will sound like this. Your CPA will say, hey, congratulations, you had a really good year last year. Now, the bad news is that you're going to have to write a big check to the IRS. That's one way the conversation could go. Or you could change that entirely. And I've dedicated a lot of my life now to changing that conversation. My CPA instead says, hey, Nate, congratulations. You had a really good year last year. In addition to that, you were incredibly tax efficient because you made the right investments in real estate and you took advantage of the tax code. And so my last hack, so to speak, is really just for you listening to this. if you're in a position where you made good money this year, but you're worried about the tax bill that you're about to pay, you really ought to get on the phone with someone on our team, preferably, because I know our team, but at least find a good piece of real estate to invest in and use the tax code for what it is to offset the tax liabilities. I'm going to wipe out my income tax this year, and I hope you do as well.
I hope you do as well. You can do it through real estate. So you can go to homeinvest.com. That will get you on the phone with me or Sue, our head advisor. We'd be happy to talk to you about the tax incentives that are there that can help you guys out. Till next time, guys, be great stewards of the time, energy, and money that God has given you. And we will see you here on Purpose Driven Passive Profits.